was a hypo, and I'm like, welcome to Under Two Capes. I am Jared, and I am here with Pauly from the New 52 review. What's up, brother?
What's going on, bro? It's good to be back, and I'm excited for this one.
Heck yeah, today we are reviewing what is quite possibly the most hardcore DC series in the New 52, Deathstroke by Tony. So I first got this when DC was doing these packs where you would get like a Deathstroke mask with volume 1. So I got this one with the mask. Unfortunately, I don't own the mask anymore. I'm like, God damn it. Otherwise, I would have it on right now.
I was going to say, bro, you should have given that to me. I'm taking it.
I know, dude. But it's like, so and Pauly and I were talking a little bit before we got started. It's like, so the first thing that drew me to this is the art by Tony Daniel, because he is by far one of the best artists of all time in terms of comics of all time.
Absolutely.
And so the story does a lot of interesting stuff with Slade. I'm just gonna flip through a little bit of the art, and the first thing that really hits me with this is how bloody the thing is. Like, you got people's heads being blown off, Deathstroke with bloody swords, and I'm like, is this a Black Label book?
Yep. And his opening design, like right there in that first shot, like you just know you're gonna be treated to some good artwork for the rest of this series. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that's one of the things I really like about this, is that it doesn't hold back with, because there are sometimes that like comic books should try to like wuss out of showing really gory violence, but it's like, no, you're gonna see it all, and I'm like, okay.
Yep.
It's like, see, he gets shot up, and his partner, his face gets punched in, and then the way this starts is. So he just well, first off, see, here's the thing I love about Daniel's art, and Sam Pérez kind of a similar way. They draw catastrophic destruction so well. I like, look at the way the building just blows apart.
Yeah, their double page spreads are something to be admired.
Yeah, this is essentially stuff that I could see hanging in my wall right now.
Yeah, I would say, give me a 24 by 36 of that, please, under multiple of these. Like,
exactly. Signed? Can they be signed?
Please. Yep.
But yeah, you see, he's like throwing his. There's people's eyes falling out.
Guys in eyeball masks getting their heads lopped off. It's crazy right off the gate.
I'm like, Jesus. But it works for a Deathstroke book. And then he's been de-aged. Now, I don't think they ever explain how he's been de-aged.
Yeah, he just wakes up and he's pretty much looking like a young Bruce Wayne here.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of funny. Wait, Batman was Deathstroke the whole time? That explains so much.
Yeah, and you knew, I don't mean to, like, I know obviously if you've read the series, you knew, but when you saw that he was getting both his eyes back, you knew that he was going to lose it in some kind of nasty way going. There was no reason to not have that in there. Like, that was
the way he does it. I'm like, that's so Slade. That's Slade.
Yeah, you knew. There he's an examining. He's like, look, I got.
I love when he looks down his pants. I'm like, yep, I'm young.
Yep.
Yep. There you go. And so, essentially, what this is he gets recruited by an organization because they have a job for him, but they need him in tip-top shape. But the other thing I really like because Daniel also writes this, and I like how he's writing Slade having to get used to having both eyes, because he's gotten used to having only one eye.
Yep, of course. He's adjusted to only seeing with his right, so with having both sets of vision, he's always worn the mask too with only one eye socket. So it's kind of cool that was a little detail that was included.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like he is just laying waste. It's like Slade is one of those guys where if he was like going up against like an army or so, I'd say the army's dead, because Slade is like that ridiculous of a character that it's like that would 100% be like believable. And we also get the appearance of a DC Comics mainstay, Bronze Tiger, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So that's where New 52 Tiger showed up.
He was also in the Red Hood and the Outlaws series. He was a big part of the League of Assassins. He was recruited Red Hood in that. I like Bronze Tiger because he's also a part of the Suicide Squad, and he was included in the Suicide Squad. I think it was called Hell to Pay, or the one. Yeah, and I liked the voice work of the character, and yeah, the Suicide Squad connection to him was super cool. And then him being involved in the Red Hood. He was part of the League of Assassins in the Red Hood series.
I'm like, oh God. And then we see Jericho, Slade's
one of Slade's kids.
That's my favorite cover right there. I mean, look at that.
I know. That rendering, the costume, like I'm going to say, this is what other artists probably strive to be when they try to draw Deathstroke. I'm sorry, but this is it.
If I were in the room with James Gunn and I said, here's how the Deathstroke costume has to look, just slap that image on there. That's it. That's Deathstroke.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, because no crazy armor, nice and slick. Like he's got the nice. I like the orange with the black. It looks right.
Yeah, because in the previous Deathstroke series that was like by Rob Liefeld, they had him in like really bulky armor, and I'm like,
exactly,
he can't move around like that. This, it's like, no, that's Slade right there.
Exactly, he could actually be silent, stealthy, almost like the Silent Snake look. Like I really like the skin tight uniform.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, also I love how the title is drawn in blood.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, there you go, there you go. And then you get like again, so he's like murdering everyone, and so then we meet Slade's father, Odysseus, and I'm like, okay, because at the time I didn't know Slade's father was still alive. Because here's the thing, here's the kind of thing about me with Slade. This was the first like real Deathstroke comic I read. I knew Deathstroke from Injustice. So I was like, okay, here's a character that uses guns and is still a badass. Okay, I'll go with that. And it's like, even in pre-New 52, Slade took on the entire Justice League. Like the way he fought the Flash is he just held his sword out and just waited because he knew the Flash is going to hit me from this angle. He goes, you're so predictable. And then Flash just ran into his sword.
Yep. I always like that too, how those characters, like the ones, like always the speed characters always seem to have like the inability to notice how predictable they would be. And that was always like a nice point that Slade could like easily figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of costumes, how about that Bronze Tiger costume? Like, that is dope.
Yeah. I love the scars on his face looking like he was slashed by like a big cat, and the goggles. Again, like you can't beat this stuff. You can't beat it.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's the thing that I always hold up about the new 52. I always tell people, say what you want about the story decisions. The art was freaking solid.
Absolutely.
Like,
and these are and when it's funny when I'm doing my videos and I'm searching up references to characters and I bring up their pages, New 52 art is always the first one that comes up under the Google search. They're the most well-known images of these characters.
Yeah, exactly. The most well searched, and they're in every game. At some point, a costume for a character, they will do a new 52. They did that with Suicide Squad, killed the Justice League. Eventually, they had like all the new 52 costumes. Yep. They didn't do that with Rebirth.
Yep.
And then, also, I like this rendering of Fire. See, that's the thing. Again, I cannot hype up Tony Daniel enough. He is like the master when it comes to rendering stuff that's normally really tough to render.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so then, so basically they tell him, okay, so we need you for a specific job. And then we find out what that is later. By the way, Odysseus's armor also looks really dope. Again, it's like, it doesn't miss. There's not one design where I'm like, okay, that sucks.
Yep, taking a random character and making him look extremely badass. It's simple stuff. The guy's making it effortless. It's simple to. And then again, Rose Wilson. I love it with the pirate crossbones on the shoulder. Little detail. I'm telling you, you can't not love this stuff.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing about it, because like even when you look at the new 52 design for Wonder Woman, it's simple, but it's fresh. That's the thing. You don't have to go to overly design. You could just go with like a simple change to even something as simple as changing the color of the W on her chest plate and changing the boots. That's all you really need to do.
Yeah. Elegance is simplicity.
Yeah, exactly. And I just freaking love that's see, here's the thing. There are a couple of artists that will make me pick up stuff just for their art. Tony Daniel is one of them.
Yep. No question. No question.
It's like, because at least, even if the book sucks in terms of writing, I know it's going to look freaking dope. Like, look at this.
Yep. When I was just reading through the New 52, when I saw a series that had Tony Daniel art, I was like, all right, I'm in for, here we go. Let's do it.
And then we get this kick-ass matchup. And there's Harley going, who's going to win?
Yeah, setting up like she's like Don King, like setting up a big heavyweight fight. I love it. Yeah, and Tony Daniel was a Batman. He did the Detective Comics early run, so he's so this is why he draws a gorgeous Batman rendering too. It's
he does.
Yeah.
And he even drew a lot of the more recent stuff for like Batman and even Wonder Woman.
Yep.
So it's like, it's always nice. I'm like, even though I loathe Tom King's Wonder Woman with every fiber of my being, at least it's Tony Daniel art. And then we get this kick-ass cover.
The covers are some of the best stuff too. Like the cover work is, I'm looking at some of his renderings too, the ones on the back where he was showing some of his pencil work. It is gorgeous. It is really like some stuff is just unbelievable.
But I love how in this panel when Batman is punching Deathstroke, it looks like he's punching him through a building. Like, wait, does he have super strength now? Is that a contingency plan? I'm like, wait, but it's like, by the way, even with the new 52, DC Online Stems has this issue, but even with the new 52 Batman design, the cool thing about it is like, it is that they keep the gray and black look, but they make it look armored, but not too armored.
It's protective, but it's protective, but he's still, mobile.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I detected what they did with like a common theme with all the new 52 characters is that they gave them armor as opposed to spandex, which I think makes more sense, even on a character like Superman, because it's Kryptonian battle armor, of course. Where he comes from, they don't have invulnerable skin.
Yeah, and it helped that every time Superman got into a battle, he didn't have to completely change his outfit. Like the outfit from top to bottom. Like, yeah, that was I always remember that in the cartoons. After a big battle with Doomsday or something, he'd be completely, the costume would just be ripped to shreds. And it's like, who's making these for this guy?
Or it's like in Superman Doomed, where he's training to Doomsday and the costume is forming around the Doomsday spikes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is actually really cool.
Yeah.
So I want to get to Volume 2, because Volume 2, so I'm just going to skip through this. So the reason why I want to skip to Volume 2, because Volume 2 is where we get to the really God tier stuff, if you will. Because at the same time, the two trades the other primary trade I was reading besides this was Superman, Wonder Woman. So when I see this cover, I'm like, oh, hell yes.
Yep.
Where he gets so he's training against the Teen Titans, which again is a reference to the fact that he was a Teen Titans villain, except it's the weird new 52 Teen Titans, where I'm like, okay, that's a weird look for them. But so he gets hired to go to by Hephaestus to kill a god. And I'm like,
yeah, the Greek, the Titan Lapidus.
Yeah. And I'm like, and then he gets the god killer swords, which first off designed beautifully.
Yep.
And so he just crash lands on a random island. He doesn't know what it is yet. And he's just slaying beasts. Again, look, the way the jaw and the arm come off.
I know. I'm sorry, I can't not say this enough. Tony S. Daniel is this, like, again, I actually, like, you're showing me these things. I haven't looked at every page, and I forgot about how some of these pictures are drawn, and it is just fantastic.
He is the goat of the new.
Yeah, that shot, that shot where he's fighting those demons right there, and one of them, he's cracking a jaw. That is like good stuff.
Right there. Look at that.
Like, my goodness. Like, stop it. This is like too good.
I know. It's like, it's one of those things where I'm like,
I think I might have to just jump to this series and just skip the whole thing and just jump to this and cover this whole series next. Oh my gosh.
Please do, because this is dope. But so he shows up and I love where he kills it. And then Wonder Woman shows up and goes, do you have any idea what you did? And he's like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
And then again, kick-ass cover with him fighting Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love where he goes, okay, so Wonder Woman pissed off Amazon. And he goes, I know, I screwed up. I get it. And I love the energy coming off their swords. It's like, it's almost like God against God, but because Slade is a dude, it's not. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then let's see. So then so then I love where he fights the Amazons. Well, first he tells Wonder Woman, "Okay, I didn't know what I was doing. Please do not kill me." And then he's like, "Look, I didn't know that this guy was a total dick. So if you'll help me, if you'll let me help." Hasha shows up and goes, "Let him help." And then he's like, "Okay, I'll let you help us like resolve this because otherwise everyone's going to die." And then it also it changes to Tyler Kirkman on art. And
I wanted to say, yeah, Tyler Kirkman's art too is really nice. He's got some good stuff. I'm currently in the middle of doing the Rise of the Third Army crossover, and he had some art duties on the early Green Lantern New Guardians series. And I must say, his artwork is just as nice as not is my favorite as much as Tony Daniels, but good stuff too. Good stuff to round out the series here.
It's like so many artists that embody the new 52. It's Tony Daniel among them, Tyler Kirkman, and it's like there's so many guys here.
Absolutely.
And then, so they're fighting a literal Titan, and then I love this. So they end up in like an alternate dimension where it's basically like their worst fears. I'm trying to get to that part. And it's like Diana's being like pulled in two different directions. Slade, it's like he's not going to be able to take care of his kids. And then I love the build up. So we get to the part where Superman shows up. And this is like one of the most like, I'm like, okay, I see where we're going here. So I'm getting to that part. And then, so I love the first person perspective. So Diana and the Amazons are fighting. First off, again, epic battle with him slicing demons in half.
Yep. Like these shots, and then you go back a few with Diana's close up. It's pretty crazy how like well he does the stuff. Like just you don't have to go. I was just mentioning he switches from these epic battle scenes to a really gorgeous close up. It's effortless. It's really good like range of stuff.
So anyway, so here's what I'm talking about. So then we keep getting a first person view of something approaching the island at supersonic speeds, and then I just love this. Superman shows up and goes, "Okay, Slade, we're gonna have to talk because as far as I know, you're attacking my girlfriend." And he's like, "Superman, I swear that's not what's happening here."
Yeah, we're just trying to slay some demons and gods together.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, but this is the other thing. So my problem with Wonder Woman's Rebirth series is that they literally had her like come to the realization that she's never been back to the island, and I'm like, what about Slade and Superman? They've been to the island, so how does that work?
Yeah, and you were the one that literally like almost granted them access to it. Like you had to. She was the one that said, "Okay, it's okay for them to come here." Yeah,
it's one of those really like. I'm like, you probably didn't think through that reboot that much. And I just love, first off, I also love the sword turning into like tendrils and everything. It's like it's not just a sword; it's like what you would expect from like a godly like.
Exactly. Hephaestus has always been known to make the most crafty, creative weapons in all of Greek mythology. So I liked how his sword was truly a really powerful weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And I love where Superman's holding him by his throat, and then Diana's like, "Stop! I know he's a criminal, but he's kind of helping me because this Titan is about to like destroy the entire world." But I love that shot because like the volcanic fire is shooting out and Lepidus is like, "I win." And I'm like, ready. Oh god damn, this is so good.
I always wondered too, that one of the questions I always wonder is why Lepidus was selected as one of the Titans for this. You know what I mean? That was always one question out of all the Titans that they could have chosen from. I guess I'd have to do a little more research. Maybe that would make sense, but that was one of those questions too. You always wondered.
Yeah, so I'm looking up right now. So he was the one. So he was a Titan that was the Titan of mortality and the father of Prometheus and Atlas. And he was also the former emperor of the underworld. Maybe that's it?
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, all the people that Slade has sent to the underworld, they were like, "Yep, that works good enough."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so here was the design of his like over armored look from a previous series. It's not a bad design per se. It's just it's too bulky for him.
Yeah.
That was my problem because I'm like, what? By the way, this whole thing just seems like something out of 300 to me. I'm just like, whoa! And then we get this kick-ass image, and it's like, again, this is screaming 300 to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, god damn. And then Superman is, and what's kind of cool about this is that this is a villain that Superman is vulnerable to because of magic.
And in the New 52 Superman Wonder Woman, he had to fight Apollo at one point, and that it shows that he can contend with them, but they can still damage him.
I just love that moment where Apollo shoots him and he goes, "You shot me with sunlight."
He's like, obviously you don't know who I am.
Yeah, and he just throws him through a volcano, and I'm like, that is my favorite Superman moment of all time.
Yeah, could be.
Of all time, because I'm like, oh, because just the way, and I love the way he that Sewell caps it off. He has Clark turn to Diana and go, "Before you say anything, I know you could have handled that." And Diana's like, "Yeah, but it was fun to watch."
Yeah, I love it. He knows. It's like he's the perfect mate for her. That's what I loved about it. Their dynamic was so perfect.
Yeah, and I love this image of Clark punching through a volcano, and I'm like, oh god, it's like all of these images you wouldn't expect to look so freaking good, but it does so much. Like, look at this one.
You wouldn't expect to see these images usually anytime at all. You see Wonder Woman and Deathstroke fighting the Greek Titan while Superman's fighting through a volcano. Like, that's not something you see every day, right? That's what I love about it most.
That sounds like now this should be a movie. Here's the Deathstroke movie right there.
Yeah.
It's all you have to do is say Deathstroke kills a god. That's all you need. There you go. Done. And so Slade ends up actually killing him. So he fulfills the contract, and all of the enemies, all the demons like droid army at the end. And so Hephaestus shows up. He takes the sword, and the gods show up and say, okay, we're going to kill your kids because so you spilled heavenly blood, and we need a blood. There needs to be some recompense.
An exchange.
So, in the most Slade Wilson thing ever, Slade pulls out his own eye and says, take it or leave it. I'm sorry. That is the most Slade Wilson thing ever.
He says, this eye, you have no idea what this eye means to me. Just take it. This eye holds a lot of merit.
Yeah, it was the eye that he just got back. And it's like, yep, we're done.
Yeah.
And then we get volume 3 where it's him teaming up with Harley Quinn, which I'm like, I could actually see that. Plus, we get Tony Daniel drawing Harley Quinn, and that's always good.
Yep.
It's again, there's not one character that I think Daniel draws poorly.
Nope, not at
all.
Not one.
And then
he'll take a random female secretary and make her look good. That you're like, okay,
he would draw a kick-ass secretary.
Yep.
Hey, what's up, RJ? Yeah, so it's like Slade does a parachute drop into Bell Rev prison, actually, and I love where basically, by the way, this is the most cameo book ever because it's like, okay, so Parasite, Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, looks like we got Killer Croc back there. It's like, who can we cram in here? Because this is the part where you're like, you don't have to worry about if it logically points in the story because you're in Bell Rev. You could put any villain you want that's about on the Suicide Squad.
Yep. And it's cool because Slade Wilson, he joined the new Suicide Squad at around this time this series was out. Mm-hmm. When they revamped the Suicide Squad, they did another series called The New Suicide Squad where Deathstroke and the Joker's daughter joined the team early. Yeah, they joined it in the early run, and Deathstroke ended up sort of betraying them, but he didn't. Like you find out in this series because Deathstroke shows up later in here wanting to kick Slade's ass because of that, and they mention it's from the new Suicide Squad title. So I thought that was cool how they included all that as well.
That was a ridiculous character, by the way, the Joker's daughter, where it's someone that's like obsessed with the Joker to the point where she belts his an infected face onto her face. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Um,
she had some weird beginnings too. She was
yeah,
introduced in the Catwoman and Nocenti run, which I personally
it's really good.
despise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
and
You ate it?
I do not like. I thought it was too kooky. I honestly, I started off reading Ann Nocenti Green Arrow, and I was like, okay, here we go. And then when we got into Catwoman, I actually liked the underground stuff, but I just thought it was too much to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
but we're
really?
getting a little, yeah, a little off topic, but yeah,
No, but it all works. It's all worked. But
yeah,
it's like, so the team, and there's Amanda Waller, and
yep,
then it's like, and then
yeah. Here's
so
where Deathstroke comes in.
Deathstroke
Or sorry,
versus Deadshot.
Deadshot. Yeah, Deadshot.
Yeah,
Here we go.
and that's the thing. I don't know how I feel about the new 52 design for Deadshot. What do you think?
I remembered making the comment about how when he was drawn without a mustache, without the helmet. So I always remember putting that, and apparently people thought that was kind of weird that he didn't have the classic pencil mustache. And I liked how after when Harley put Joker's skinned off face, going back to that in the early Suicide Squad New 52, and Amanda's saying, "Oh, what's wrong?" Because he kind of was all messed up because of having that. He's like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to grow a stash." So they were like, because he was like, he didn't like the way his face looked with the Jokers on it after he was all freaked out, and I thought that was kind of funny. I didn't mind his design here. I don't know. I don't know. Deadshot was always kind of one of those characters that I thought I'm just glad he was still around because I thought he was always a cool character.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I love, again, Harley Quinn's going, fight, fight, fight.
Yeah, like Don
oh,
King
God.
in the corner there. Heavyweight fight. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then again, I think she's actually a stand-in for the readers because who's not going to cheer for a Deathstroke Deadshot fight?
Yeah,
I mean, who's not?
Yeah, and the way he's squaring up with everyone from these, like every fight he's involved in, the way he's square for Batman, Wonder Woman, now Deadshot. These are really good. Like, I really like the shots of them squaring up with each other.
Yeah, it's like he fights both in this series. Part of the reason why I like it so much is because he fights characters that you would expect Deathstroke to fight, but also a few that's like, I'm like, where is this coming from?
Yep.
It's like Wonder Woman. I really, as soon as, it's kind of funny, as soon as like I first saw that cover, I'm like, well, he's getting his ass kicked. No, he held his own. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I always like that about Deathstroke, though. I always like that he's a character that truly, I feel like he could truly contend with anyone with the way he's been written over the years. He's just, he's kind of like, again, just one of those characters that you just feel like even he'll play dirty. He's always got a trap ready. He's always ready for that one thing you don't expect someone to do. That's what I liked about how he's been written over the years. Just ruthless.
Well, part of the reason for that is because part of his enhancements is like he's got enhanced intelligence.
Exactly.
Like his tactical mind is like is crazy. So I'm like, he is the one character where I've always said, yeah, he could take on the League, no problem. Because he already has plans in his head for to take him out. And then I love where he's Mortal Kombat Scorpion into this cave. He's attacked by Black Manta, so we're getting him fighting Black Manta.
Yep, and because Black Manta was part of the new Suicide Squad title.
He's like, payback time. That's what that's about.
That's what that. Yeah, that's from the new. I actually didn't mind. I keep saying the new Teen Titans because there was also another series like that one too. The new Suicide Squad. It wasn't a bad series. I liked it because again, the first edition, the very first volume, issue 1 it shows Deadshot, Harley, and Black Manta, and they're being like shackled by, being held captive. They look like they're being held captive by Deathstroke, Joker's daughter, and someone else. I think I can't remember. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a really cool like opening issue comic. That's what drew me in.
Yeah, and then we get this kick-ass cover, ironically called "Blood in the Water." Oh, I wonder why. And again, just this image of them fighting underwater, and I'm like, geez. If ever there was something that could be a kick-ass movie poster, it's that.
Yep.
Like
or a
they should. If they make a Deathstroke movie, just have it him fighting random people. That's all you need.
Yeah. bring in a few subplots that could open up into other, that could, you know, like stay as subplots for other movies, and have him kind of introduce them as he's going through it. You could introduce so many cool, like, dark corners of the DC universe just from him being interactive with them.
Yeah, and I love this image. So Black Manta escapes in the water, and then Deathstroke just comes up and is like, no, and he just lands there like a superhero. He's like, okay, it's okay, a-hole, it's my turn. I'm gonna murder you right now.
Yep.
He's just a tough guy, and then it's like then they're still fighting, and I love Harley. Harley is having the time of her life. She's like, this is so brutal. I hope it lasts long. And I'm like, oh God.
Yep. She was a great addition to this series. I liked how she kept popping up and kind of helping him, but kind of screwing him over at the same time. I actually really like that.
Because that's just Harley Quinn.
Exactly. You can't, exactly. It was just the most random inclusions, but it kind of worked at the same time. And it was like great comedic, you know, sort of comedic backdrop. It was good stuff.
Then we get Snakebite, like this character. And I'm like,
really cool original creation. I liked him. He was cool.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot. That's the thing I loved about the new 52, and Dan DiDio, the chief creative officer of DC at the time, was talking about part of the thing about the new 52 was let's experiment more, and let's give characters that normally would not get their own series a series. That's why you got like OMAC and like all those other weird series that came out. Maybe didn't last, but it's like at least we tried it.
Yep. And I thought some of them got cut prematurely. I thought some of them had some great potential if you just gave them a couple more issues.
Dude, Men of War, bro.
Yeah. Men of War, Sword of Sorcery, even Frankenstein. I know Frankenstein went a little longer than, say, OMAC and Hawk and Dove, but talk about a missed opportunity. Now you got James Gunn making Creature Commando movies. How did that not consummate into something more in the new 52?
I know.
And with Jeff Lemire writing, it was a sure thing.
And then we got Catwoman, sure. So we got Super Wonder and Batcat. We got both couples here.
Yep.
And then, again, another this whole episode is us saying another fantastic image because it's art by Daniel. You just can't. And then we get these kick-ass images. I love where like it's Deathstroke, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman teaming up, and it's like all of these images in a Deathstroke comic book look like a stills from the most kick-ass action movie ever. Like, imagine this, because I could imagine this being a scene in a movie, and it goes into slow motion, Zack Snyder style, and it just freezes on this.
Yeah, all these characters are involved in their own factions, right? Harley Quinn, the Suicide Squad, Deathstroke working on his own, and then Catwoman comes in working for one of her things, maybe the Birds of Prey or the Gotham Sirens, and they all end up having to come together, and these three end up together at one point. Just be again, perfect little thing for a scene of action.
Heck yeah. It's like, again, it's like, that's the thing, again, to reiterate, that always stands out to me. But the new 52 was one of those eras where you can look at any panel from it and instantly know it was from the new 52. It's like that art is that distinctive.
Absolutely. I even have, I picked up a DC encyclopedia book just for when I'm doing references, and almost, I know Jim Lee was one of the editors on it, so maybe he's biased because he had lots of stuff, but almost every image from the characters shown are from new 52 renderings. Almost every one. I'm like, yep, I remember that picture I remember that comic when they're showing this character. Everything. The new 52 gave some of the most, like, the best respect to some of the characters in terms of artwork and design. 100%.
Yep. And again, that's where I'm like, when people mouth the initiative, I'm like, yeah, but did you really read it? Because there weren't a lot. There were some bad changes, like Lobo's design.
Yeah,
like
Lobo was
Lobo.
Yeah, no, that was not good looking.
But it's like when you compare that to this, I mean, look at Slade. He's like running at them with dual pistols, and I'm like, yeah. I'm sorry, you will never convince me that this is that the new 52 was horrible by this series alone.
Absolutely. People don't realize when you have a series of titles that large, of course there's good. You're not going to have a 100% batting rate, right? Like you could, right? And again, it's just what's going to happen. But you got to look at some of the other stuff that it was involved. It's worth your time 100%. I tell it to everyone. It is worth your time to get into, even if it's 4 or 5, even if it's one series, you will enjoy the series you do get into. I promise.
Yeah, exactly. It may take some time, but it's like there's something for everyone in this period, and that was one of the intentions of this initiative. They were like, we want to cater to all the different readers. If you're a reader of war comics, if you're a reader of horror comics,
absolutely,
there's a comic for you.
Yep, they were doing it all. Fantasy, crime, erotica with the early Catwoman stuff that gets crapped on. It's like, why is that so weird to people? So
erotica, the Voodoo series where she's a stripper.
Yes, Voodoo, exactly. Yeah. And like they didn't make it distasteful. She was doing it in a way where she was making it so she could gain intel and manipulate people. And so what if she was a stripper? People have been stripping since people have been around, right? Like,
not only that,
it's not something that's so weird.
The guy that was writing that book, was he inspired by those old Species movies?
Maybe.
I get major Species. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
I get major Species vibes from that series. I'm like,
yes.
Okay.
In the first transformation scene where she attacks the cop that's trying to seduce her, that's actually totally spot on.
Yeah, and then now we get Deathstroke versus a bunch of Bizarros.
Yeah, this again. How could you not love this stuff? You got him. He's fighting with Catwoman and Harley Quinn at one point. Now he's in a lab looking for Lex Luthor, and he's taking on a bunch of Bizarro clones. I'm sorry, you got.
So wait. So let's recap. He fights Bronze Tiger. He fights Wonder Woman. He fights Superman. He fights Batman. He fights Black Manta. He fights a Snake Man, and then he fights Bizarro clones.
Yeah, after he just fought a bunch of Lex Luthor as well. Yeah, Lapidus. Then he fought a bunch of Lex Luthor robots back in the last scene before he even got to the basement. See, he's fighting that weird Lex Luthor bot. And look at this too, random secretary, and again. Great design. I don't care what you say. He draws facial, like those eyebrows and the eyelashes. That's like 3 or 4 lines. Yet look at the expression in that character's face with 3 or 4 lines.
I think that this issue was done by Tyler Kirkham.
Okay.
But still, it's like.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing with the art designs. These are the kind of stuff that when you see these artists do these character designs, you just think like this is the stuff that other artists strive to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I miss when DC had art this nuts.
Yeah,
like,
dynamic it's like in your face. It's dynamic. It's smooth. It's you know what I mean. You can get it all the adjectives you want. It's just good
if there's an image you can hear, it's in any page of this book. I can hear these images.
Yeah.
And then so essentially he escapes, and then this is where he fights Red Hood. Another character.
Yeah,
the amount of characters he fights in this.
It's insane. And I was honestly, I loved it because I love Red Hood, Jason Todd, my favorite Batman character, and Robin. So when he came in, I was like, okay, let's keep going. Like,
and then we get this cover where they're like, I'm going to kill you. No, I'm going to kill you.
And again, I'd like a 24x36 poster of this in my room, please.
Yes. Can this be my phone and computer and everything background, please? I will take it.
Seriously, the moon in the back. I'm sorry. Like, this is stuff that you just enjoy looking at.
Yeah, exactly. And then so we see like or again Rose Wilson. Oh, okay. Occasionally, DC Universe has that issue where it has to reload the page, but it's like again, and so we get it. Now here's my one problem. And this is just the problem with like a different artist drawing this issue. All of a sudden, Red Hood's helmet has a mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it didn't.
The whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing is the whole mask looks different completely. He's got the weird black around the eye sockets too. This one, yeah.
I'm like, what happened? But I'm like, all right, fine. And then so they fight, and then instead of superhero fashion, they end up teaming up.
Yep.
And then and then it's really funny because now Slade has to fight his own daughter, and I love the design of her of her mask, how it has like it's a black diamond essentially.
Mm-hmm. Super cool. And the crossbones on the skull and crossbones on the shoulder pads, super cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all those tiny details that add up to making up by, of course, Batman versus Superman reference. I appreciated that. There you go.
Yep.
And then last volume. So this is the one where, again, this is just essentially the writers and artists saying, okay, so who can he fight next? Because it's like he fights Red Hood, then he fights Ra's al Ghul. I'm like, is there anyone that these? Why don't we just throw in Darkseid for all we care and just have him fight Darkseid? Honestly, I kind of want that right now.
Yeah, Deathstroke versus Apocalypse. Him taking on all the guys, Calabac, and
he becomes the ruler of Apocalypse.
Yeah, just starts going through, becomes one of the generals.
But here's my point again. His mask doesn't have the mouth anymore.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I don't want you to go back, but in that last issue, he had quite the luscious mouth on that mask.
Yeah,
that was kind of crazy. He had like the whole model face. He was doing like the duck mouth with that mask.
Yeah, I was like, hello, Val Kilmer. But
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect reference. Batman there.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. That was the thing that continuing on that I really dug about this is that, again, none of these cameos seemed forced.
No.
There were a few of them where I'm like, where when it was a random character, it's like, oh hell yes! I never thought I needed to see like Slade fight Superman and Wonder Woman or a Titan, but I'm here for it, so it works.
They made it work, and they made it entertaining the whole way through.
Yeah, and I love where he's in a casino, and then they're like, okay, Slade's here. Let's go kill him. They shoot the door, and then he just comes in through a different door and just slices them in pieces.
Yeah, it's like, how could you fall for that? How could you're fighting, if you guys know who Slade Wilson is, you guys really think he's just going to be waiting in the hotel room sipping some champagne?
There's this great comic called Superman American Alien, and there's this fantastic moment. So in one of the issues, Clark is mistaken to be Bruce Wayne, and Deathstroke is sent to kill Bruce Wayne, not knowing Superman is just Clark. So he tries to slash him. The sword breaks on his skin, obviously, and then Superman just throws him off the ship. And I'm like, yeah, he's gonna remember that
forever.
Yeah, and then so here's what we see here. So we get not only Slade fighting Ra's, Slade teaming up with Ra's al Ghul, Slade and his kids, and I'm like, okay, again, all of this naturally like fits together so well. It's like, of course, Slade would probably team up with the League of Assassins at some point. I think it was even continuity at one point that Slade was supposed to take over for Ra's, but Ra's went with Bruce.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how you feel about some of the DC, the more recent DC. I can't remember what they call it. The DC extended animated universe with the Justice League Dark. Yeah, with those are the ones with the Justice League Dark. Yeah, there was one called Son of Batman, and I remember
I love that one.
Yeah, that's the one where Slade was supposed to take over, and he ends up killing Ra's al Ghul. Sorry, if no one's seen the movie, sorry, spoiler, but yeah, that's
it's
how
like
the
a 10-year-old movie. It's all good. But
yeah,
it's like,
if you haven't seen it, shame
my
on you.
opinion on those is that they're great up until the death of Superman.
Yeah,
because Death of Superman, it's where they're like, okay, let's break up Superman and Wonder Woman off screen. Let's bash Wonder Woman to build up Lois just so we can legit just do a rehash of Death of Superman. And I'm like,
yeah. And I'll be honest with you, that's where I kind of stopped watching, to be honest. I didn't get fully into, I was really into the Batman ones, the Son of Batman, Batman versus Robin, where they brought in, that's how I knew about the Court of the Owls.
Yeah.
That's what made, I watched those movies before I had actually gotten into the New 52. They were on a TV. They were just on TV one night, and I caught them on TV. That's essentially what got me into the New 52 and reading comics again. Though I was like, okay, DC's putting out some cool kind of gritty stuff, and these are based on comics. Maybe I should check these comics out. And lo and behold, that's how my New 52 obsession began, right there.
Well, ain't that a good way to start? Mine, it was the movies of Zack Snyder, which when you watch them, they're heavily based on the New 52.
Absolutely. And that's, as I started to watch some of the movies too, I started realizing that as well. I didn't realize how much of influence, again, how people don't realize the New 52 influenced so much stuff going forward.
Yeah, but it's like with the DC AMU, it's like, so you get the Superman. Reign, I didn't think was that bad. Then you get Hush, where they screw up Hush.
Hush was rough.
And then
That was a rough one to get through. That was
Mhm.
rough. Way too many characters squeezed in, aging up the characters, excluding Damien. That was a rough one to get through.
And then you get to like the Wonder Woman Bloodlines movie where I'm like, this is horrible.
Yeah, that's when
And
you
I'm
were
like,
kind of, or you, yeah, I was already honest. I will be honest. I was already lost. Yeah, they had already lost me by that time.
And then that they were like, let's just do Dark Apocalypse War and
Yeah,
just
and just
murder
yeah, let's
everyone.
just destroy everyone. That one was crazy. I remember
That was a
watching
great
that one.
movie, though. I love
Yeah,
that one.
that one I had to watch it because I heard it was really good. So I watched it with an open mind, and I was like, wow, that's how you kind of, yeah, that's how you pretty much Quentin Tarantino it.
But I'm going to tell you this. My favorite one is Throne of Atlantis.
Yep, I love Throne of Atlantis. That's a great one.
Like, even though, see, the thing is, I understood why they didn't put Arthur on the League in War, because, like, if they were going to do Throne of Atlantis, they're like, let's just do the origin for Throne of Atlantis. There you go. We're done. So,
Yeah.
so I understood that. But it's like the music and how it's like some kind of old Arthurian thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm really digging this. Plus, you get Darth Maul, Sam Witwer as Ocean Master. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's actually really good.
Yeah. Yep. That's another good thing about those. The voice acting work is phenomenal in those throughout.
Rosario Dawson as Wonder Woman. I'm like, yes.
Yep. And I actually, funny, you were talking about your favorite one. Throne of Atlantis was probably one of the first ones that I got on DVD after they stopped coming out on TV. So I remember that was one of the first ones I watched. But actually, my favorite one is Bad Blood, Batman Bad Blood. I'm a big fan of
Batman.
I like Batwoman. I don't care what anyone else says. I like Batwoman.
Oh, me too, dude.
She's got a cool history. I like how she's got the cousin connection with the Kane County, because that's always been brought in. Like, Gotham's in Kane County, and there's some cool story with the family back there. And I like that premise. Like, I like the premise of how more of like the Bat family had to help more throughout. Batwing got introduced. Luke Fox's Batwing got introduced. Loved it.
And I love that the final shot of the movie is just all of the Bat family. And I'm like, yep, there you go. That's freaking dope. But yeah, exactly. I wish they did more with Kate in those movies, because at least have her show up in Hush. Or it's like with Barbara, she shows up in a cameo in the post-credit scene, and then shows up briefly in Hush, and then dies in Apocalypse War.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I freaking hate her purple and black costume.
That was
with the yellow boots, with the yellow freaking construction boots. I'm sorry, I don't like it.
Yeah, you know the story behind that one, right?
The costume design?
Yeah.
What happened?
So what happened is so Barbara, I think, moves out of Gotham and moves to Burnside. It's essentially
yes, I know what you. Yeah, in the comic reference. So I thought you were just talking about like
the comic.
Yeah.
No,
so I thought you were
like,
yeah. I thought you meant.
Like, I get what they're going for. It's like a homemade costume, but I kind of liked her more armored look. Or here's what they should have done: keep her as Oracle.
Yeah. Yep. She would have been.
There's plenty of other Batgirls that you could have in there, so you could have Batgirl. But I'm like, okay, but in their defense, Gail Simone told a pretty dope story, so I'm not really complaining.
No, me neither. I was gonna say I like that Gail Simone run, and again, it's funny you say she would have been a great essential. Like, maybe I don't know if they like redid the Killing Joke story, because that was kind of pre New 52. They just said it happened.
They recanonized it.
Yeah, I wish that maybe they showed it over and she became Oracle in the New 52, because again, they were trying to shoehorn in a lot of female Bat family. They had Harper Row, Cassandra Cain came back, and then Stephanie Brown came back in the Batman That Eternal story, the big 75 anniversary year story. So yeah, they were trying to bring in a lot of female characters. So she would have been good out of the costume too. I agree with that.
Well, yeah, but the problem with the initiative from the get-go is that, yeah, it was a reboot unless you're a Batman fan or a Green Lantern fan. It's like when they openly in Green Lantern reference Blackest Night, I'm like, there's no way Blackest Night happened on this earth.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's funny you say it too. I don't want to get too out. I'm getting right into the rise of the Third Army, and they make so many references to pre-New 52 stuff you never saw, talking about them fighting the Grandmaster, them fighting Krona, them fighting Ion, the Green Lantern from Daxamite that went rogue.
Now, I'm fine with them referencing the space stuff because that could have happened. But the stuff that when they reference Sinestro Corps War, which had a significant Earth portion, and none of the heroes talk about it, I'm like, there's no way this happened in the 5 years.
Yeah, and the War of the Green Lanterns, like that would have just happened. That would have just happened, and then in Volume 1 of Green Lantern, where everything's just fine. Everyone's just no talking about how we all just got taken over, and nearly the whole thing just fell apart and everything. Yeah, that was kind of wild. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this Deathstroke.
So pretty dope story. He and Raish team up because the idea is that Raish essentially has adopted Slade's kids as assassins, but Slade essentially says, "Hey, let my kids go. I will work for you." So he takes his kids' place.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I think has always been consistent with Slade is that he puts he's in some ways can be a villain, but he's one of those super villains that has a heart, if you will. It's like he's doing all this for his kids.
Yeah, he's got sort of those. It's again, I like one of those like kind of like jaded moral compasses. Like you don't essentially 100% know why he's 100% loyal to his kids. Like he really loves them and wants them to be okay because there's not really any like speculation that like he was a good father and they don't really like him and he just wants them to love him. But like you could tell there's more to it. You know, he's got some trauma that wants to be kind of fixed, and he does kind of love. He does want some form of love and affection in his life. He's not totally soulless and cold.
Yeah, it's like that's what I like about Slade, because he's not really a villain when you think of I kind of attribute him more to like DC's Punisher a little bit in that he does violence, he does murder people, but he has a code.
Yeah, and you don't see him ever doing anything that you would consider like he's an absolute piece of what I mean? Like he's not going out there
except for like pre-New 52 when they had him in a relationship with Tara, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that whole thing was, you could tell that's just that's a product of its age.
Yeah, I'm like, who thought that was a good idea?
That's a total product of its age. I always thought
like that even in like the more recent stuff, they had him join the Justice League at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that actually works for the character. But it's like, again, Slade is one of those characters where when you think about it, because he's a mercenary, but he's not just going to kill you for killing. In fact, there was an arc, I think it was in the previous run before Daniel, where this father was killed by his son, and on his dying breath, the father said, "I'll give you $1 if you avenge me." And then Slade says, "Contract accepted." And he goes in because he has a code. He's like, "Yeah, you kill your father, I'm going to come and kill you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why he and Darkseid have always been my tied for my number one for favorite, like air quotes, villains, because again, he's not. Sometimes he can be a villain, but most of the time he's more of those morally ambiguous characters.
Absolutely. He's one of those ones that you don't mind continuing on with, wanting to know more about them and even being kind of interested in them.
Yeah, that's plus I'm always like a big fan of like characters that aren't necessarily gods, because it's like it's more impressive when he kills a Titan, because he's like he's enhanced, but he's a dude.
Yeah.
He's a dude that has fought Superman, Wonder Woman, Bizarro armies. That's why this series is like so crazy when you think about what one man has done.
Yep. And it's never like he does it effortlessly. Like,
no.
You know what I mean? He fights tooth and nail. He uses his set of skills to every advantage, to every degree, and that's how he wins the fight. You know what I mean? It's a character that you actually is believable in what you say he's doing, or what you're watching he's doing.
Yeah, and I like how the series ends. It's because he sends his kids away because he says, if you're with me, all you're gonna know is death. I want you to have a better life. And he just goes, and I'll go alone, taking only death with me. I am Deathstroke the Terminator.
Yeah. I liked how they always included that too, the original Deathstroke the Terminator, because I liked how they actually didn't balk on that, even though the movie. I always wondered why that, like, where that came from. And it's because he was created almost right around the time that movie came out. So it's actually kind of funny to see that. But I liked how they didn't balk on that, because I like Deathstroke. The guy, like, again, it fits his role.
And there's that funny story of when he was in the Teen Titans cartoon, they only call him Slade because they didn't want a kid's villain to be named Deathstroke.
Yep.
I'm like, well, it doesn't necessarily. It's very inconsistent, because it's like, if you know, like in the Super Friends cartoon, they use Darkseid.
I know they could have at least called him like DS, or I know DS maybe doesn't have too imposing, but it, like, the guy, you know, the guy's name, like that's one of the most like important parts of, like, I think one of the character arcs for like Robin, because he becomes him, I think, at one point. So it's like, wouldn't it make sense if you didn't know his, like, you know, his name is Slade? Can't, like, isn't Robin like supposed to be like a great detective like Batman? Couldn't he like use that in some way to find out who the guy is?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
it's
so
like
stupid.
It's Slade, so we know who it is. So there you go.
Yeah, you got that cartoon. I get it was like campy and whatever, but like, you can't have the word death in it. Like, come on.
What's kind of funny is, like, so I discovered Deathstroke after seeing that cartoon. So it's like, when someone tells me this guy is that guy, I'm like, I'm looking at this guy that has just hewn people in half, and I'm like, these are the same characters.
Yeah. That's funny. It's funny. Some of these cartoons, their bylaws are wild.
Yeah, I'm like, who is it? I'm glad that we're beyond that point where if we include Deathstroke, we can actually call him Deathstroke.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's I get at the time where they were coming from, but it's like, then don't use Deathstroke.
I was just say, don't even include him.
There's plenty of other super villains you can use that you don't need that.
Yeah. And not to mention, those cartoons were making up characters on the fly as they went all the time back then.
Yeah. So that's that kick-ass Deathstroke series. And I think this is the series that made me the hardcore Slade fan, because it's like, when you see the feats that this guy can do with effort, but he still 100% doesn't, when he plucks out his own eye, because that's more his prized eye, because that's more preferable than the gods killing his kids. I'm like, oh, god damn, this is dope.
Yeah, and one of those series that you just can't, honestly, you can't put down. The more that you got into it, the more you enjoyed it. And that was the best part about some of these characters that got some of these titles.
Yeah, well, plus, again, it's like, that's the neat thing. It's like, that's one of my favorite parts of the initiative, because it's like, there was always something new to try, at least. Because it's like, I picked up OMAC. It wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I liked it. I loved Men of War, because I've always said the idea of like normal soldiers doing like stuff in a world where the Superman exists. I find that fascinating. I'm surprised they've never done a movie.
It fleshes out the universe. Hello. That's always the question that people would, I feel like a normal person would ask if there was actually superheroes. It's just like, are there armies needed anymore? You've got 52 titles of all these heroes running around, a lot of them public. How do the armies and the regular police forces actually operate in this new world?
Yeah, but here's the thing. What terrorist is going to try and attack when you know that, like, Superman is going to stop you?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then it asks the question of where these Men of War guys and those characters kind of, where are they obsolete now? Do they have special ways that maybe they can control things that if the heroes got out of line? You know, you could flesh out the whole universe, tons of storylines too. That's what I liked about the Amanda Waller. She was doing the whole thing, and being in this series too. She always was kind of like fighting against certain things that you didn't think were there, but they could be.
It's good for world building, and that's why it's like those small cameos that she shows up, but maybe it doesn't mean anything now. That's important, because it makes the universe feel lived in, particularly a universe that just got rebooted.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So, did you know there is a Deathstroke animated movie?
Yes, and it started off as it was going to be a TV series, right? But it was called
I did not know
Deathstroke.
that.
Yeah, I think so. I just want to say, I don't. Is it Michael Chiklis who did the voice?
Yes, Ben Grimm.
Yes. Okay.
It's called Knights and Dragons.
Knights and Dragons. I was gonna say, I don't know why.
So
I was gonna say Demons and Dragons. I don't know why that came to me.
Close.
Yeah,
but it is so. It is basically as bloody as that comic show. I was like, oh god.
That's funny. I remember it came out I remember it came out an episode or maybe a clip of it came out, and then it just never came to be. And then they turned it from being a series with multiple episodes into a movie, into just sort of a direct to film movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I have heard of that.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest, and yeah, it's Slade in the DCAMU. I felt it was really good. I felt it. He felt imposing as a threat, particularly when you like get to like Judas Contract and all that. It's like, okay, I buy this guy as a legit. That's the thing about Deathstroke. Whenever he shows up, you know stuff's about to go down.
Yep. He's a legitimate threat. I always thought that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I love this one part. He was trying to escape from Superman, so he just threw green rocks at him, so he'd think it was kryptonite.
Yeah.
Oh. He just grabbed him and just threw him at him and just ran. He's like, okay, you'll jump and cover.
Yeah, yell kryptonite and then runs.
Yeah. He's like, see ya. But yeah. So now let me ask you this: which volume was your favorite?
So as we were going through them, it's funny that you say, because I would have said number 1 right off the top because it has like it introduces you to all the art and that. But I actually I didn't realize how much was included in volume 3. That had the crazy Bizarro stuff, that had the introduction of Snakebite, who ended up becoming a long-term character, and the Suicide Squad stuff. So I'd say volume 3, even the end when Red Hood made his first appearance. So I'd have to say volume 3 probably for all the stuff combined, with volume 1 being a close. I'd have to go 3, 1, 2, 4. I like the Greek god stuff in volume 2, absolutely. And I know you love your Superman, Wonder Woman stuff. I will also say, 2 is going to be
my favorite for that reason.
Absolutely. And I will say too that Tony S. Daniel actually probably produced, possibly if you like gun to my head, ask me my favorite piece of art of the New 52. He did a double page spread from the Wonder Woman Superman title with them, and then all their collective villains on each side of them.
Oh, it was the cover. I know what you're talking about.
It was the double page. It was the wraparound cover. I call them double page spreads in my videos. And it was them standing, the 2 heroes. And then they had both of their villain sets off to the sides of them. And that just may be my favorite piece of art in the entire New 52. I remember looking at that. And I just remember saying out loud, like, wow.
Yeah, because it showed how well their worlds
kind together. Of exactly. I love that. I love seeing those kinds of spreads. Like I love seeing characters draw, like it's all, I call them like the Alex Ross, like how he does all the characters in a big wide spread, like the Alex Ross paintings. I always call them that, the Alex Ross spreads of like all the characters in one kind of si shot, and that was awesome.
So you mean this?
There it is. Yep, right there. I would, if someone offered, like if I found this on like auction or something, I may have to like put down I would like probably like, I would say I have to be like, rent is going to be short this month because of that.
I have it graded.
Oh.
And signed by Charles Sewell.
No freaking way.
Yeah, I was randomly going through Midtown Comics and this popped up and I'm like, well, if this isn't fate.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal, dude.
Like, yeah, I do agree with you. It's like one of my favorite images because it perfectly shows how their worlds combine in that series. And I'm just like, yeah, that's one of the great parts about the initiative is that they tried new stuff and they did stuff that they took risks. It's like even when they gave Wonder Woman her new armor, I get what they were going for. That didn't work, but I'm like, hey, I appreciate you trying something.
Yeah. Yep, and they did that with a lot of characters. Actually, the Flash got a new kind of not bulkier, but almost more. It wasn't just a simple red kind of pajama looking thing. Like he had like shoulder blade pads and the lightning stuff that went along the costume. A lot of characters had sort of new designs for sure.
Yeah, my favorite is when like Manipul is drawing it, and then the Flash costume comes out and like armor plates like it's Iron Man and just comes on him. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, that's so badass.
Yeah, that was super cool. I love Francis Manipul's work because he usually doesn't do like the typical lining work. It's almost looks like it's done with like pastel kind of colors, and the way
he like lays out a page. It's like I saw a page that was like he had the panels in a spiral, and I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Every one, and he would always do the classic DC presents the Flash in that he would always include those words in the title page, but in a like he would integrate it into the image. Super cool. And he was a Canadian, so I got to give him a shout out too.
Of course.
Canadian,
there you go. I see how it is. I see how it is, Pauly. But I think that's a good place to leave it. So this was a great episode. So Pauly, where can we find you, and what have you got coming out on your channel?
Okay, so you can find me at the DC New 52 on YouTube, X, Twitter, and Facebook. And then, as I've mentioned a couple times on this podcast, we are in the middle of the Rise of the Third Army title, which is all the Green Lantern series. So Red Lanterns, Green Lantern New Guardians, Green Lantern Corps, and Green Lantern. So I don't mean lanterns. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, the Green Lantern family or fans were definitely spoiled with their family of books in the New 52. And then the Rise of the Third Army leads into the Wrath of the First Lantern crossover. So I'm gonna do them back to back just so I don't upset anyone and confuse anyone. So that'll be it. It's gonna be all Green Lantern for the next few weeks. So I hope everyone tunes into that, and I'm hoping that that looks good.
Heck yeah, and I'll have a link to all the Pauly stuff. And dude, again, you're always welcome on the show. I need someone to geek out with the New 52 about. I have very rare people I can do that.
Anytime you're doing a New 52 podcast, I'm here. These are so much fun, and I love talking. Again, I forgot how much cool stuff was in this Deathstroke comic. I just, the broad strokes you remember when you're reading 10, 15 comics at a time. Yeah. So I'm really looking into this, and I am so glad you invited me on for this one because this was a treat to get into.
Heck yeah. So stay heroic, everyone, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks. See you later.
Take it easy, everyone.